What do technological determinism, media, and the future of American politics have in common? Let's explore this question by starting with another question. What is technological determinism? Leo Marx and Merritt Roe Smith say that technological determinism is the idea that an invention once introduced into society takes on a life of its own. Langdon Winner argues that the core assumption of it is that technology forms the basis of social life and changes in technology are the single most important basis of change in society. Technological determinism is an idea that may be interpreted as society adapting to technology. Smith and Marx also argue that technological determinism is a view that circulates widely in the media. The media circulates this view and helps to maintain its place in society. If we are operating under the assumption that we collectively must adapt to technology rather than adapting our technology to our society, then the question may become, are we adapting? Our society needs to adapt to its technology sooner rather than later, especially with the expectation to adapt perpetuating throughout it. One specific domain that draws particular concern is in the political arena. Taylor Dotson said that technological determinism contributes to the biasing of political discourses, practices, and organizations toward non-decision making and adaptation with regards to technological change. Biased political discourses, practices, and organizations are hardly anything for a society to aspire to. If the media is in fact influencing our attitudes and perceptions toward candidates, then we need to be aware and adapt. If we don't adapt, we run the risk of becoming a country that does whatever is best for the people controlling the media, rather than for the citizens as a whole. The media is the technology that we need to adapt to, or run the risk of having our perceptions and attitudes toward potential American political leaders manipulated by it. Let's take a look at the media in question now. Online news and social networking sites may be influencing attitudes and behavior more than most realize. Ferone et al.'s study about online news and social networking found that negative information from either type of media was more likely to change participants' explicit attitudes in a negative direction, and as a consequence, also change their vote. Both online news and social networking sites are shaping attitudes and perceptions toward candidates, and neither blindness to bias nor adoption of misinformation is going to be a satisfactory adjustment to this new world of news. Today, our news programming and journalism has been muddied by opinion shows, and the distinction between news and opinion is something that viewers have been left to decipher on their own. Sunstein stated that partisan news sources allow people to isolate themselves from contrary arguments. Mutz and Martin say this selective exposure can increase hostility and polarization because neither side understands the rationale for opposing viewpoints. The media may be helping people choose to align with viewpoints without them ever challenging themselves to come to their own logical conclusions. Selective exposure is perpetuated by this fear of opposing viewpoints, and people have to understand and remove themselves from this vicious cycle if they wish to make truly informed decisions about who they vote for. Bias within the media can influence perceptions and attitudes, and if that bias isn't identified, then it can unknowingly be adopted by viewers despite the possibility that it doesn't represent their best interest or, in fact, what they claim to support. Morris said individuals who see bias in political news reporting believe that the direction of the bias is counter to their own political beliefs. Morris also said Americans are getting different versions of the same issues and events, which may hinder the chances of political moderation and compromise among the mass public, and concluded that this phenomenon exposes a possible irony of the fragmented media era. As the number of news sources increases, the likelihood that the public is exposed to counter-attitudinal perspectives might actually decrease. This all makes sense, but it requires a processing of news programming that acknowledges these biases. Until this type of processing becomes common sense, there's still work to be done. Technological determinism would tell us that we need to adapt to today's news and that it isn't going to change for us. Therefore, awareness of these biases needs to be added to the repertoire with which the aspiring, informed American needs to be equipped. The media is affecting the way people are perceiving candidates, and people must become aware of how they're being manipulated if they want to have an honest say in what happens in America. The future of political discourse depends on us adapting to this new world of news. We need to be honest with ourselves as to how much the media molds our minds or give away our freedom to participate in American political discourse. Questions?